This episode is about hormone levels, sex hormone levels, and blood tests. And last year, when I went to see my gynecologist, I told her I need help. I think I need hormone therapy because everything I'm doing, it's bettering things, but I cannot continue living like this. It's just, well, you listen to the other episodes, I shared so much about that. And then we took a blood test. And she measured estradiol, progesterone, luteinizing hormone, DHEAS, and testosterone. And that was just shortly after menstruation, because she said that's the time when we need to have the blood test. And then we took another blood test, which was around ovulation. And there she only measured estradiol levels. And just last week, I've been to my general healthcare practitioner because I got the entire blood panel, as good as it's possible to be done so, but because not everything is done in Germany, as recommended by Dr. Mary Claire Haver. And so I had that other blood test as recommended by Dr. Mary Claire Haver, where also we looked at testosterone and also estrogen levels. So not all the other hormones like luteinizing hormone, FSH, or progesterone, but at least two indicators. Because I wanted to know, why am I feeling so much better, like 1,000 times better than I did? But why is it still so, it's still so difficult? For a month now, I'm procrastinating my tax thing. And it's not that it's so difficult. It's not that I'm scared. It's just I cannot get myself to do it. And it's a thing I used to be doing. I mean, I didn't love it, but once I decided I'm going to do it, I did it. And now I've decided I'm going to do it. And I've started, and it's bad, and it's just a tax thing. So it's, for me at the moment, it's still really challenging to be present. It's so sad. It's so sad because it's not because no, I don't really care anymore. I mean, I had a phase where I really did not care anymore. Past, present, future. It was so void, like so void. Give me darkest black and that would be too bright. Like really, really, really bad. But that's gone. But still, it's not like I'm back in life. I'm back in life. I'm muddling through life, but not in a way how I know how I am. I mean, it's not that I have always been like moderate, and now I suddenly want to be a fire beam or fireworks or stuff like that. It's not like that. I had rather been pretty good, happy, despite stuff in my life, of course, but it wasn't like life. No, it was rather life. Ooh, there's a butterfly, there's sun, it's good food, it's ooh, which person am I gonna meet? It's like I was so curious about people, about life. I was impersonified. Is it that word? Impersonified curiosity. I'm no longer really. I mean, I still have my areas of interest, but many areas of interest which I've had, somehow, I don't know, it doesn't spark much anymore. And it's really impeding me. And it has been impeding me for a long time. And it got much better with all the lifestyle things I did and with hormone therapy, but it's still, I feel like going through life. Oh, that's lovely. Do you know the Flintstones? Like they're in their cars and they run and they walk, and so the car is moving and rolling. I feel like that. It's not like I'm a Flintstone Stone Age car. I feel I'm sitting in a race car. I'm having a super, super nice Lamborghini, Bugatti, whatever you want, Formula One car. I'm sitting in that car. And instead of having an engine and a gas pedal and a brake, I'm having the underground of the car is open and my feet are hanging out and I have to run. So in order to get this sports car to run, I have to run. That's how it feels. Though I'm sitting in a super wonderful, lovely vehicle, but it's just not running. Somebody took out the engine and said, you have to run. And it's so tough. It's so tough. Rather give me a bicycle there. I can move forward more easily. But with all this, oh, it's tough. So it's just kind of a picture. It's not completely right, but it's kind of like that. And how would you feel knowing I'm sitting in a race car and I have to run? Oh no, I know. That's like not the best picture, but that's really how I feel. But I know I have been a race car and I can go back to being a race car. I can also be a very slouchy tiger lying on the couch. I'm very good with that as well. But even that, I'm no longer doing. It's more I'm muddling through life in a very weird way. At least for me, it's very weird. And for others, it might be just how they always operate, and then that's fine. But then imagine suddenly you would operate in a completely different mode. How would you feel about that? So I got my blood tests, so I had the older hormonal levels, and now I have more recent hormonal levels. And last year, when my gynecologist and I had this privately paid, short, though expensive, conversation about hormone therapy, she said, your hormones are fine. Based on the hormone levels, you don't need hormone therapy. But I told her, I have this, I have this, I have this, I'm experiencing blah, 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 pain, inflammation, my list was long, and it didn't even include everything which I was experiencing. And then she asked, oh, maybe SSRI, antidepressants, have you tried those? I've been to therapy. I've been to therapy and told my therapist in the first session, I am here. And I thought it was stress related, work related, was also because of that, definitely triggered by that. But I've been to the therapy because my heart was racing. I could feel my blood pressure up in my head, everywhere. I had difficulty breathing. I had physical sensations which I never had. And of course they can happen, of course, and they can be psychological, but they did not really vanish. I mean, they did then vanish eventually when I cut down everything from my life, even friends and family, even work. I cut down everything. Then was when my heart racing, the high pressure and the difficulty breathing suddenly subsided. But that also wasn't really living. And you might listen to me, you might see me now, and you might think, huh? Is that a fairy tale she's telling me? Like, I don't trust her. You don't have to trust me, but it really is the truth. It is the truth, and it was not fun. It was not fun. It was not a state or place where I ever want to go back to. And I actually am angry that I did go there, because it would have been easily preventable. Nevertheless, when I did see my gynecologist and she had the consultation, she said, your levels are fine. You don't need hormone therapy. But then eventually, because I paid, I imagine, she did give in and she did prescribe both, thankfully, estradiol gel and progesterone. And she said, maybe try in the first half of the cycle of gel, maybe not in the second, but progesterone in the second. So she was a little hesitant. And I trusted her. For whatever reason, I did not ask her for the blood panel, but now I did. And now seeing the blood panel, I'm thinking, was she serious? Because I was so grateful, like so ultimately grateful that she prescribed hormone therapy, because then really all my measures, all my activities started to kick in. I started to feel better, and not just for a day or two, but for longer phases and continuously, that I was ultra grateful. But now I have the levels. There is ranges, and of course a range doesn't mean that's the right thing. Just as with glucose, there's ranges, but it's not necessarily good to be at the higher end of the range, even though it's still normal. It might still not be healthy. So those ranges, whether the lowest or the highest, might not necessarily be the best places to be at, but they're still often observed and in the normal ranges. And here's, I'm going to share that, ranges for the follicular phase, for the ovulation phase, and then for the luteal phase. And there's also information for the levels of post-menopausal women. And of course, those hormones will fluctuate, and especially during perimenopause, they will likely fluctuate. In the follicular phase, like the really early follicular phase, because we took the blood just a couple of days after starting the new cycle, my estradiol was pretty low, like really pretty low. Like it's a range from 19.5 to 145.2, and I was 37.2. So it wasn't at the lowest low, but I could have multiplied that various times and I wouldn't even been at the higher end of the range. So that was rather low, and yet my gynecologist said your estrogen levels are fine and you're having a regular cycle. You do not have estrogen deficiency. Yet I am thinking now, seeing those figures, and it might be an incomplete deduction I'm making, but I'm thinking my body is having a regular functioning cycle with pretty low levels of hormones, and also the other ones were not really high, like really not. I'm having a functioning cycle despite rather low hormone levels, which means to me all the hormones which my body is making are sent to my reproductive system, ensuring that that stays intact, so that the tiny chance of still gifting a life or experiencing gifting a life and passing on my DNA is still possible. So my system is set up to, fuck, she didn't have a baby. We need to do everything. So if she still has the chance, she can provide new life and reproduce. So that's my body doing. All the hormones in the body ensure that my cycle is healthy. But that also likely implies that everywhere else, delivery, hello, we placed an order. Yeah, hello, we play. They placed orders, but they never get their deliveries. And that's likely why I had such severe perimenopausal symptoms. I had fevers, I had migraines, I had cognitive mush. I've had inflamed bones and joints. They were so painful, worse pain than when I was infected with COVID. I had dry crusts and eye inflammation and sinus infection. I noticed in so many areas of my life that I'm not healthy. And now looking back, all those areas likely had been screaming, hello, we've ordered, hello, come on, no, hello. They've ordered, but they never received any delivery of estrogen or other sex hormones anymore, because everything was sent to my reproductive system. Because my cycle, clockwork. I mean, it got shorter. I had a rather long cycle, and throughout the past years, it it decreased by several days, but still it's a clockwork cycle, perfectly orchestrated, perfectly. So I'm still ready to have a baby if I wouldn't be that old. My entire system with regard to reproduction, super okay, lovely. Everything gets done as well as it has been for the past decades, but all the rest, tick, 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 tick. And that's likely why I had experienced very severe symptoms. And everywhere I went, general practitioner, ear specialist, eye specialist, psychotherapy, nothing helped. Nothing helped because they were not addressing the cause. So estradiol was very low, progesterone was very low. Like, yes, progesterone in the follicular phase, just a couple of days after the cycle started out or still within menstruation, progesterone is low because progesterone is made once there was the ovulation, or the majority of progesterone is made once there was the ovulation, and then out of the follicle develops the body which is producing progesterone. My progesterone level, though knowing it ought to be low in the beginning of a cycle, it was a third of that what is perceived as the upper range for post-menopausal women. And in post-menopausal women, the upper level is 0.73. And I was 0.26. So it was really low. Follicle stimulating hormone was also relatively high. It was definitely close to the upper range level, which is what I mentioned: follicle stimulating hormone, inflammation, imbalances, impedes estrogen, etc. What I've mentioned in all those other episodes. Here I could see it. Because my estrogen, my progesterone, my follicle stimulating hormone, I'm good. I'm doing my work. Nobody cares if you're doing that work so spectacularly, because if you do that work so spectacular, you're doing it unhealthily. DHEA was okay. There's a range from 26 to 460, whereas DHEAS from 26 to 460, whereas again, these are ranges for different age phases. And 460, though that's a range, yes. I mean, in another video I spoke about the fat reserves. If I have lots and lots of fat reserves, it's easy for me to lose weight. No, that's actually wrong. If I have lots of fat reserves, it's okay for me to lose weight, because that means that it's possible that my fat reserve is shrinking. However, if I'm starting out with a very low fat reserve and then I'm supposed to lose 10, 20, 50 pounds, I'm dead. So some women possibly start with a DHEA reserve, which is pretty big, and others have a smaller DHEA reserve, and then going up to the level of the 460 is like weird. Yet I was 91 in a range of 26 to 460, which is okay. It's not super high, but it's also not really low. Testosterone, there's a range indicated of 0.1 to 0.6, and I was 0.2. So that was on the lower end, but still okayish. I mean, compared to the other ones like estrogen, progesterone, luteinizing hormone, testosterone looked okay. Yet what did my gynecologist say? She said, okay, here's estrogen gel, here's progesterone, try it, but I'm really doubtful. I'm really doubtful, she kind of said. But nevertheless, gladly she did, because most of my other symptoms got so much better. Got so much better. I mean, it took a while, but like the ear humming, the crusts in the nose, the pain in my bones, the fever. And I'm not saying fever because it felt hot, but because I actually had fever outbreaks and migraines and very bad digestion pre-menstruation. It was really, really, really bad. Very bad. And many other things. Most of those got better and even vanished. But this drive, this energy, this being part of life has returned to a degree, yes, but it hasn't, it's still in the bud. It's still in the bud. It hasn't blossomed yet. It hasn't returned to be spring. So I got estrogen, I got progesterone, and then she mentioned DHEA. DHEA, that's so low, and I did not know. I did not see this result. I just asked for it yesterday. But I trusted her. I trusted her. Trusted her. She said, raise your DHEA levels. And then I took DHEA and I researched, because I was hesitant, because I know that, let's say, taking estrogen orally has a very different effect on our body and our health than estrogen taken transdermally. And everything we eat goes through the liver. And all these hormones also go through the liver, and they're likely not having the best effect there. Progesterone, on the other hand, has a very fun effect in the liver, because once that is passing and being metabolized in the liver, it is actually creating a pharmacological effect, which creates a kind of sedative. That's likely why women on progesterone find it easier again to finally fall back asleep early in the night, but it doesn't really help with staying asleep, or not necessarily, because that is often another cause. Also mentioning that in other videos, glucose spikes, for example. So, but she said DHEA, DHEA. So I did the research and I thought, taking DHEA orally, I don't know, I'm not convinced. And I couldn't find studies really saying it's okay to take that. I rather found studies saying, be cautious, we don't know of the effects yet, might not have the best effect on your overall health. So I was a little cautious, but again, I will have a separate episode specifically on DHEA. So, and then I researched, because I knew from other drugs that, or with the estrogen, I knew that in a gel, it can be applied transdermally. So I did research and researched, can DHEA be applied transdermally? And yes, it's possibly. And then I researched and I found a way to dissolve it into an oil. So I had a DHEA oil, which I applied. So definitely the amount of DHEA received through the skin is lower than received orally, but I had calculations on how to dose it. But nevertheless, I didn't really notice anything, except some weird skin conditions, which might have been caused by something else, but I did notice they did not return once I stopped taking the DHEA oil. So that was the first blood test. Then the week after, when I was in full ovulation, my estrogen levels, or estradiol levels, were really low, really low. And again, these are the ranges. And I was within that range, yes, but it was not really, really peaking, like beyond and forever. It wasn't like that. Nevertheless, I had a regular, fully functioning cycle, even though my bleeding was like super short, I don't even know if I ovulated at all. It was like, we're done in a day or two, like super, super short. Now, a day is not right, but 2 days kind of is right. And I had been bleeding before for much longer than that. So it was low, And now with the new blood test, which I got last week from my general healthcare practitioner, my estradiol levels were pretty high. They're 187. It was indicated with red because it's above the range, which was said here to be from to 138, and I was 187. So that was beyond that range. Nevertheless, for the phase, and I was in full luteinizing phase, 186 and luteinizing phase. That's nothing. That's nothing. It's not low, but it's definitely not high. There can be levels of up to 2,214. So like really high, really high. My 187 was not 2,200. So even though it was indicated to be high for the phase of my cycle, totally fine, totally fine. And another topic, another indicator in my blood was highlighted, but not in red, being too high. It was highlighted in blue. But I didn't really speak with my doctor. We did not speak about testosterone. Now also seeing that it was indicated in the color, I'm wondering why, because that was really low. And there was a range of 0.22 to 2.9, and I was 0.09. So really, really low. And that, however, was a different measuring unit than the measuring unit of the blood test which I had received last year. So it cannot be compared one-to-one, because last year it was in nanograms, and this year with the general healthcare practitioner it was in n-mol per liter. So it's a different measuring unit. And last year's value of 0.2 in nanograms per milliliter is equal to 0.69 nanomoles per liter. So 0.2 equals 0.6. And I had 0.09 and not 0.69. I had 0.09. So my already low, relatively low testosterone from last year in June had decreased within 7 months by 96%. By 96%. And while most of my perimenopausal symptoms got much better, like a lot better, I'm so grateful. I really am so grateful. Of course, I also do lots of other things. You're hearing me repeating saunas, sleep, cold plunges, high intensity. You have it in your ear. You hear me repeating on that. I did my part. I did my share. And all of that actually should have an effect also on testosterone, because all of those measures increase naturally testosterone production. Yet, instead of increasing my testosterone production, my testosterone levels plummeted by 96%. 96%, that's a lot. That's a lot. I mean, to bring in another picture, if, for example, the central bank would decide to increase or lower interest rates by 0.25%, that's an outrage. That's a rippling, bombastical effect on the world economy, written about in every newspaper, magazine, podcast, discussed, and affecting stock markets and prices and wealth and poverty. It has a huge impact on our entire society and system. 0.2% increase or decrease of interest rates worldwide. Yet, my testosterone in my system did not get the message, we're going to reduce you by 0.25%. My system would not have wasted one single headline on that. My system doesn't even ride a headline on, "We have decreased your testosterone rate by 96%. My system didn't say anything. My system was quiet. My system was, I don't have energy to say anything about that. That's what my system does. And I'm so grateful, so amazed, so I'm lacking the word in any language, so tender in a way comes to my tongue, mesmerized at awe and wonder by the magic, brilliance, and mastery of our bodies. If my bank account would suddenly drop by 96%, I would be different. I would be very different and very much in trouble. And I would do everything to put the return, to press the return button and to find ways how to get out of this mess. My body, on the other hand, is doing everything it can to keep everything as stable and as functioning as before. And I know that it's not really, but I had no idea that one of the causes very likely is my plummeting testosterone levels. Within 7 months, my already low levels, really, they were not on the high ends. My already low testosterone levels, together with low all other levels, which were brought into the reproductive system and not anywhere else, my low levels of testosterone have plummeted in 7 months by 96%. 7 months. What happens in the next year? What happens until I am in menopause and beyond? And yes, you might argue, if you've done your research, you might argue, yeah, but you're substituting estradiol, and estradiol has an effect to lower testosterone. Yes, that's true, absolutely true. Yet, my estradiol levels, even though now it was measured to be high, it was marked in red with the 187, but that's the luteinizing phase. That's not even close to the upper range. I'm not close to overfeeding my body estrogen. I have brought my body back into a stage where it has enough estrogen in the system. And I know it's enough estrogen in the system because many of the symptoms which I had really suffered from have mildened and even disappeared. But they can return like that. They can return like that. So yes, it is true that higher levels of estrogen can lead to lower testosterone levels. That is fact. Yet a drop by 96%, that's massive. A drop by 96% in 7 months? That's incredible. Just to think about it, vice versa. If the central bank would drop interest rates by 96%, in a way it could, but anyway, or if your bank, if your loan would not, your mortgage or whatever you would have, your interest rate on that would not be dropping by 96%, but instead rising by 96%, you would notice the difference, like definitely. And why? I mean, just 1 + 1, logically. I'm not pro testosterone per se. I was really, until I had the blood result, I didn't even think I had low testosterone because of all the measures I have been taking, because of all the activities, lifestyle, health, nutrition, sleep, exercise, everything I did, glucose, insulin, everything I did is pro testosterone. So I didn't think I would need testosterone. So I'm not pro testosterone for every woman. Far from that, far from that. But those results here, I am pro testosterone for those results and for those cases and for an open, fact-based, data-based discussion and conversation. Yeah. So my system is currently functioning. It's just a question of time until my system's running out. And also with that, I'm not joking. My grandma died when she was 47. My grandpa died when he was 52. So that's one side of the family. My mother died when she was 63. That's not old. That's really not old. Paternally, most people get older. They're in their 80s, 90s, many of them, or they die really young. But if they survive that really young stage, they get really old. But most of them are very, very disease prone. Diabetes, dementia, Alzheimer's. It's in there. So when I'm saying my system will be running out, I mean that. I mean that. And why wait? Why wait for those horrid diseases or even death to happen? Why not prevent it? I mean, it's not that I'm saying, oh, please cure the most violent cancer now. I'm not requiring and asking for a miracle. I'm asking for a super simple solution. Super simple solution. And testosterone, I will be speaking in another episode specifically about testosterone in the female body and the insights I found. I had no idea about that. But testosterone is essential, just as essential as estrogen and progesterone and all the other hormones. It's essential. And I've mentioned in another video, you can supplement calcium, and think you get healthy bones. But if the bones do not get the message how to absorb, what to do with the calcium, they will not do anything with it. And the calcium then just says, I'm going to go somewhere else, see what I can do there. Whether it's the blood vessels, whether it's organs, whether it's tissue, it can be pro stages of cancer, the calcifications which it can be causing then. So calcium then goes somewhere else. So calcium goes somewhere else and we can supplement, but it will actually do no benefit and rather get us closer to doing harm. Same as with hormone therapy. Every word is about estrogen, progesterone. Yes, many symptoms, many underlying conditions get better, can be relieved, can be dissolved with those hormones, yet giving more estrogen, more progesterone will not do what testosterone would have been doing. It's just not. It's just not. If you desire chocolate cake, if you desire chocolate cake and have cravings for chocolate cake and somebody feeds you a hot dog, I mean, nice, but that's not. The receptors for chocolate cake, they're still firing. They see the hot dog passing by and they think, I don't care, I need chocolate cake. And that's the same of estrogen and progesterone and testosterone. There can be enough estrogen and progesterone in the system, but where's the chocolate cake? Where is the testosterone in this picture? So really weird, really weird. So yeah. And again, I've mentioned that, but I'm repeating that, and I'm not repeating it to bash my gynecologist, but rather to raise awareness that some just don't care or cannot care or would like to care but can't because of whatever factors. Instead of asking, what's your level now? I could have said it's this and this and this, and we could have calculated, or if she would have shared, I would have asked for the information already. I could have told her my levels had dropped by 96%. I think that should ring some alarm bells. Instead, she wanted to perform another examination so that she could charge the health insurance. It's so weird. Again, what is it? Yeah, again, a very long episode. I'm not apologizing for that. I hope it was helpful to you. I hope it equipped you with some questions, insights, and new ideas, and will spark some conversation among your friends, among your family, with your healthcare provider, so that you and I, and maybe a few other women, will be the last generation of having to go through this fight on our own, each of us individually. I think it's insane. In the very truest meaning of that word, it's insane. Not only for us now, but for us as we age, for our families, our environments, and even our societies. It is insane to let us women run through life, walk through life, schlep through life with these conditions when they can easily be mitigated. Easily and cheaply, really cheaply. Even paying out of my own pocket. This estrogen gel, yes, it's expensive, but it lasts. It lasts. So for each little dosage I would be applying, I'm happy to pay that. It's not a fortune, and it's not a fortune compared to the cost it would have if not treated. And I'm not saying push me to the upper ranges of testosterone levels, or push me so that I become a man, or push me so that I am, as they did in the past in some countries, to dope athletes. I don't want that. I mean, as much as I would like my muscles to grow, I don't have that need. I rather want to be in a level in which my system can stay healthily without compromising, without depleting many cells and tissues and organs from the messengers and thus activities which they need in order to stay healthy. That's why I'm calling out, and why actually was I interested in testosterone. One thing was, yeah, this drive really hasn't come back, but I actually thought that was still my cognitive thing, that I should just get my shit together better, so that I was, what was I? Pushing myself in a way. But I actually was curious about testosterone because I realized I'm exercising like crazy for a year and 2 months, at least 3 times per week, and I'm really pushing it, and I see hardly any muscle growth. I do notice I've become stronger, but there's no muscle growth whatsoever. Instead, I lose a kilogram, and I do not want to lose weight. So I did not see any benefit there, and thus I was a little like, oh boy, if my muscles do not really notice the difference, what about my bones? Do they get healthier? So that was my origin for this curiosity about testosterone. And now that I know more about it, I'm thinking, oh my God. So I will get a DEXA scan. I hope I find a practitioner where I can get a DEXA scan. Of course, again, paid of my own pocket. But I'm slim. I don't have many reserves. I never really did the heavy lifting, and I'm concerned about my bones. I really am. And of course, I'm doing stuff, and I will continue to do stuff, but I want to know where I'm at. So again, oh gosh, such a long episode. Maybe I cut it in 2. I'm not sure yet. This was my blood levels. I hope to provide insight. I hope to provide questions. I hope to provide new ideas for your conversations, for your understanding of your health and how you can transition through this phase of life healthily. And I notice I have stuff on boiling in pots and I forgot about it, and I need to take care of that now. So I wish you all the best, all the health possible, and please share with your friends, share with your loved ones, share with your friends, and please share what you've learned, what you found interesting, what has helped you. in the comments. Looking forward to see you next time.